מסכת בבא קמא דף קט, נו משנה, היכן פיקדוני אמר לו עבד, משביעך אני ואמר אמן, ועדים מדינתו שאכלו, משלם קרן. הודה מעצמו, משלם קרן וחומש ואשם. An owner of an item goes to the shomer and says, where's the item I gave you? And the shomer says it was lost. This is going to be in contrast to the next case where he says it was stolen. So it's important. He just says it was lost. And then the owner says, I want you to swear. And he says, amen. Just responding amen to that is itself a swear. And then witnesses come and testify that in fact the shomer had taken it for himself. Right? He used it or ate it or hiding it. So in that case, the shomer has to pay just the principal, only the principal. However, if the shomer admitted to it before witnesses came, he came and says, I admit, yes, I took it. Then he has to pay not only the principal, but also a fifth. And also bring korban asham. Now, why should he have to pay more if he admitted to the fact? Well, there's a source, but also we can give an explanation. The source is from here. A man or a woman who make a sin against another human being, that's chatot ha'adam, even though it's also limol ba'al ba'Hashem, right? It's also a sin against God. Stealing from someone else and lying about it is also, well, it has a double aspect. You're stealing from someone and you're lying in God's name that, no, I didn't steal, or I don't owe that person money. So this person is guilty. However, vitvadu et chatatam asher asu, if he admits to what he did afterwards, then he has an opportunity to make teshubah. He returns the principal, and he adds a fifth, and he also brings a korban asham. So this is the source why it's only if one admits. And the idea is that if witnesses come and find that the shomer has lied, then he has no opportunity to atone. Of course, he has to return the item that he stole, right? But that's it. He can't do anything else. Whereas the person who admits to it, it's actually good. It's true he has to pay more and bring a korban, but that's a benefit to him that he can do that. It's the same principle regarding shogeg and mezid. Almost all cases, one can only bring a korban hatat for something done by accident. Okay, now you have an opportunity to make teshubah. You did it on purpose, then you're not afforded the privilege of being able to bring a korban in order to make teshubah. So that's the source and explanation for this difference. So this is all if he claimed that it was lost, then he pays either the principal or the principal on the fifth and asham. Hechan piktoni amar lo nignav, mashbiachani v'amar amen, v'adim ma'edim oto shegenavo, misham tashlumei kefel, hoda me'asmo, misham keren, v'chomesh v'asham. If the owner said, where is my item? And this time the shomer says, it was stolen. He says, I want you to swear. And he says, yes, I swear. And then witnesses come and say, it was in fact stolen. He stole it himself. So then he has to pay double. There's a difference between if he says avad or if he says nignav. This double seems to relate this law to a regular thief. That's the other case where we see someone paying double. Just someone who goes into your house and takes something and then is found pays double. So this guy also, it seems that once the shomer claims it was stolen, so now the item officially has the status of a stolen item, and whoever stole it will have to pay double. Turns out the shomer himself stole it, so the shomer he puts himself in trouble by claiming it was stolen, because if he's the thief, he's the one that now declared it to be a stolen item. Right now the police are on the lookout, stolen item, and he's the one. So now he has to pay double. Unlike where he says it was lost, so then it never gets the official title status of being a stolen item, so that when he's found out, he doesn't pay double in that case. So that's very interesting. This kind of plugs in to the law of stolen items. However, if he admits on his own, like a regular robber, who even though he goes into your house and steals it in the night, if he admits to it, he doesn't pay double. But this guy, he would only pay single. But this one, since he also swore falsely, so then this fits into the same pasuk that we just mentioned. Since he swore falsely about a monetary claim, so he has to pay the principal and a fifth, and also bring a korban asham. Hagozel et aviv v'nishba lo umet. Someone steals from his own father. He steals $100, and he swears falsely to his father that he didn't steal it. This guy is trying his best to be a ben sorer moreh. And then he admits, right, that he did it. But at some point, the father dies before he pays. So now he owes the father the keren, the 100, plus the fifth, that's 25. So he has to give the father $125. And he also has to bring an asham. But now that the father died, so technically the son will inherit. So can he inherit the amount that he was supposed to have paid the father and just keep the money, basically? So the answer is no. He cannot benefit from what he stole from the father. Instead, that entire 125 will go either to the father's other sons, if there are other sons, or if not, let's say the son who stole is the only child, then it will go to the father's brothers, the uncles of the thief, who would be next in line to inherit the father. Or it could go to anyone else, whoever would be in line. Not that those other inheritors deserve this particular money, but the point is that this son cannot benefit from what he stole, and he cannot take the money. However, but let's say the son who stole does not want to forfeit his right to that, or he doesn't have other funds to be able to pay. He cannot afford to forego this money. So because technically he does have a monetary right to it, it's just that he cannot. It's like kind of like a fine, like he shouldn't benefit from what he stole. Therefore, there is a loophole. The loophole is this son who stole can borrow $125 from the bank, from anybody, a third party, and then though the bank, when it wants to repay the borrower says, listen, don't get repaid from me, go to my brother and he will pay you. And that way it's a workaround. So the son died, that $125 that would go to the thief, he can't get it. It goes to his brother instead. But technically, monetarily, it does belong to the thief brother, and so he can't take it directly, can't take benefit from that money. But there's a difference between benefiting directly and just not paying a loan, so he can benefit indirectly by telling the bank, oh, that guy, other guy, he'll pay for me, and then that would be okay. Someone says to his son, maybe this very son who was trying to steal from him, right? So they don't have a very good relationship. Anyway, the father says, vow, kunam is like a nickname for korban, that you cannot benefit from me. Anything that I have is prohibited to you like a korban. So in that case, while the father is alive, the son cannot come over for dinner. He cannot get a gift from his father. But now the father dies. The son can inherit, because once the father dies, then it doesn't. His property does not belong to him. He can't own it as a dead person, and therefore he is benefiting from money that no longer belongs to the father. And so once the father is dead, that's it. However, bechayav ubemoto imet lo yirashenu. If the father specifies and says, I want you can have no benefit from any of my property during my lifetime and even after death. In that case, the prohibition is inhering in the property itself. You can have no benefit from all this property. And so in that case, even after he dies, the son cannot inherit. And therefore, that son who was excommunicated, there's a vow against his benefiting. That money will go either to his brothers or to his uncles, the brothers of the deceased. But if he doesn't have sufficient funds to live, that son, and he really needs this money, then we can use the same loophole, and he can just borrow from the bank, whatever that amount is, and then the bank will go and collect from those other inheritors, his own brothers or his own uncles, because the point is he can't benefit from the father, but once it goes into someone else's hands, so then he's benefiting from the bank, right? This is the benefit from the bank, and is only indirectly is he benefiting that he doesn't have to pay back the bank. It's like the bank said, okay, forget it, you don't have to pay, and the bank themselves, they benefit from getting paid from that property. And so once it's indirect, the prohibition no longer applies. Amar Rav Yosef, afilu al nikisha tzedakah. Amar papa v'tzarich she'amar ze gezel abi. In the case when someone robs his father, and then he cannot take the money himself. So he either it goes to his brothers or to his uncles. And Rav Yosef is adding, it can even go into the charity pot. It's not that the other brothers deserve this money, right? It's just that this brother who stole, the son who stole, cannot take it for himself. And so if they decide, okay, you know what, it'll go to charity, that's fine. The papa adds to that, as long as the son who stole specifies this is money that I robbed from my father. In other words, he shouldn't be able to take credit for it as if he legitimately inherited this money and says, oh, I'm giving you this big donation, right? Put a plaque on the wall. I want a tax receipt for it. No, you have to tell them, announce that you're giving it only because you stole from the father and you can't keep it anyway. That way you don't benefit from the honor of having given it. Amai nimhaleh lenafsheh. And now we ask, why? Why can't the son keep the money? Why can't he forgive his own obligation? In other words, since the son stole from the father. If the father was alive, he'd owe the father $125. Now the father died, so technically he owes the father's estate $125, but he's the inheritor, so he gets it back. So instead of paying himself, he could just forgive himself. You can do that. Milo tenan, machalo ala keren, velo machalo ala chomesh, alma bar mechila. Who we saw Mishnah back a few dapim ago regarding the fact that if you steal from someone and lie, you have to go and return the principal, even to travel to Madai, even if you have to spend more on the trip than the payment is worth, you have to go and do that. However, that Mishnah taught, if the victim forgives the robber of the principal, and even if he didn't forgive him regarding the fifth payment, then he does not have to travel all the way there to return it. What do you see from here? That if a victim wants to, it's his right to forgive. Right? It's not like a fine to the Bet HaMikdash that you have to pay it. Who's going to forgive it? Here, the victim can forgive it. So in this case, basically it's just a monetary obligation. So in this case, if the father was alive, the father could forgive it. The father's dead, it's true. So now it goes to the heir, who was the son, who was the thief himself. So if the son, he's owed this money, if he wanted to forgive it, he can. Now he happens to also be the perpetrator, so he's both the perpetrator and the collector. So he can forgive this payment, and then he doesn't have to pay. So what's the problem? Let him just forgive it, and then he can keep the money. So why does the Mishnah say that he doesn't keep the money? He has to give it to his brother. Amar Rabbi Yochanan lakasha ha Rabbi Yosef haGalili ha Rabbi Akiva. We're going to see three answers to this. The first one is to say that the Mishnah over here, our Mishnah, is the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, and the Mishnah over there regarding the guy who forgives, who lives in Madai, that is the opinion of Rabbi Yosef HaGalili. The next answer is going to be that it's all Rabbi Yosef HaGalili, or it's all, both are Rabbi Akiva. So let's see the first one. What are we talking about? What do they argue about? The Tanya. Im en la'ish go'el lahashiv ha'asham, v'chi yesh adam yisrael she'en lo go'alim, ela begezel haged ha'katub medaber. We're talking about this pasuk here. In the same context of what we were learning before, but so you have to give back the item that you stole. But here's the thing, if the person is dead and there is no kin, there is no goel, there's no next in line, that you could give the restitution to, right? You want to give it to someone. If he's not alive, you want to give it to the inheritors, but he has none. So then, as the pasuk says, you give it to the kohen. Besides the Ela Kippurim, asher yichaper bo alav, besides the korban, that also will be given to the kohen. So we're going to see that in a few minutes that this goes to the kohen. But the question here is, what do you mean there's no relative? Everybody has a relative, right? I mean, every Jew is related. They have a parent. Okay, they have children, they have a brother, a parent, a grandparent, an uncle. Jewish geography. Come on, you should be able to find someone who doesn't have any relatives. Oh, it's a convert to Judaism. A convert, their biological kin is not legally recognized by halacha as their legal kin, and therefore, if they have no children, then there is no inheritor. So this pasuk is talking about someone who steals from a ger and swears falsely about it, and so there's no one to give it to. So he, what do you do with that? So the pasuk said that you're going to have to give that money to a kohen. So here's an interesting case. Someone stole from a convert, and he swore to the convert. He says, "I didn't take it. It wasn't me." And then he heard a rumor that the convert had died. Now he felt bad. Oh, the convert died. What am I going to do? So you know what? He wants to make teshubah. And so he takes the money that he stole and he brings in asham and he's going to bring it to Yerushalayim and he's going to give the money to a kohen, as the pasuk says, because there's nobody else to give it to, plus the fifth. And he's going to bring his asham. And on the way, he meets that very convert that he stole from. He says, "Oh, I thought you were dead. I am so sorry. When I heard about that, I felt such remorse. And look, I'm on the way to make teshuvah, to return the money." And then the convert says, "Listen, you don't have to pay me right now. Right? You do owe me this money that you stole and the fifth. But you're on the way there. I'm on the way here. And I don't need the money right now. You can make it a loan, right? We'll say it's a loan, and you can pay me next month." Okay, so then they go on their way. And so the idea is that he still the robber owes the convert the money. However, in the meantime, before he actually pays, umet. The convert now really dies. So now what do we do? Okay, according to B'Yosef Galili, the robber can keep the money. Why? Because the general law regarding a convert who has no relatives is that all of his property becomes hefker. Since there's no one to inherit him, so then anyone who comes and takes it first can keep it. Now this guy who has a loan, right, because it was converted into a loan, so now he has money that he was supposed to give to the convert, but the convert died, and so he has first dibs on it because it's already in his hands, and therefore he can keep it. And what about the restitution of what he stole? No, well, the convert already forgave it. He said, right, that you don't have to pay. You know what? Turn it into a loan. It's like it's like he's saying, I accept it, but now you keep the money and you'll pay me back at a later point, so therefore he can just keep it. Rabbi Akiva omer en lo takana ad sheyosi gezelot mitachat yado. Rabbi Akiva, however, says no. Even though it was converted into a loan, doesn't matter. The point is that the robber did not pay what he has to pay to make teshuvah for stealing and lying, and so therefore he cannot get teshuvah until it's removed from his possession. And so Rabbi Akiva says he's going to have to go and give it to a kohen in order to make teshuvah. That is the machloket. Now let's analyze and see how it applies here. According to Rabbi Yosef HaGalili, a person can forgive this payment, and it doesn't matter whether he's forgiving it for himself or forgiving it for someone else. The case of forgiving it for someone else is easier to explain. That would be the Mishnah, that is according to Rabbi Yosef, the earlier Mishnah about the guy who lives in Madai and says, I forgive he's the victim of the robbery. He says, I forgive the principal, you don't have to pay it. Certainly there, he can forgive it, and even the Rabbi Yosef would say, in our Mishnah, even the son who is the robber himself, but now he's also the inheritor, even the son can forgive himself. Yeah, Rabbi Yosef says that's also okay. We're going to see that this will apply to the case of the convert as well, where the convert, if he were alive, could have forgiven the robber, and now that the convert died and the robber inherits by really, appropriates the robber's money because he already has it in his hand, so he also can forgive himself. So that makes sense of the earlier Mishnah. Rabbi Akiva says nobody can forgive such payments. In order to get atonement, the payment has to be given. And therefore, the earlier Mishnah that says the guy in Madai can forgive the principal and then you don't have to give it to him, you can still get atonement, that is not the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. If you don't pay, you don't get atonement. Doesn't matter if the guy says, it's all right, I don't need you to pay. The victim says, I don't need you to pay. It's not up to him. Fine, he won't get his money, but the robber still won't get atonement. So that is only Rabbi Yosef, not Rabbi Akiva. Our Mishnah over here is the opinion of Rabbi Akiva that a son cannot forgive himself, and that's why the money has to go to a brother, and for that son robber to get it, he'd have to go to a third-party bank and use the loophole. And in this case of the convert, even though he is appropriating the convert's money after the convert died, doesn't matter. He still has to go and give the money to a Kohen because he has to, if he wants to get atonement. And so that's the first answer. We add just a further clarification. Since we just said, according to Rabbi Yosef, one can forgive even himself. So what's the whole deal with if the convert says, keep it as a loan, even if the convert didn't say keep it as a loan? They just met and he says, oh, I see you're alive, right? And the convert died before the robber got a chance to pay him. So he didn't establish it as a loan, and the robber was going to give it to him, but now the convert died and he has it in his hand, so then he can still keep it. So even though it wasn't converted into a loan, it doesn't matter, since he now possesses the property of the convert, so he can forgive himself. Right? Who is he going to pay? He would have to pay the convert, but now this money that he would have to pay to the convert, he gets legally, right? Convert has no heirs, he can keep. So then, therefore, he just forgives his own. It's like he's paying himself. Same as saying that he forgives himself. That's fine. He can keep the money. And so, according to the Rabbi Yosef, really, it doesn't matter if the convert said, oh, we'll turn it into a loan, or if he didn't say that. And the reason why that Baraita says it's a case where he turned it into a loan is not to teach us anything about Rabbi Yosef, but rather is to show the extent to which Rabbi Akiva says that it does not work. Even if the convert said, you know what, don't pay me the payment that you owe me, just turn it into a loan. And so now we might have thought that, oh, now that it shifts into a loan, it's like he paid. And now there's just a loan, a regular case of a loan that you give to a convert and he dies, you can keep. Rabbi Akiva teaches, no, even in this case, that money that you still have it in, it's stolen goods, ill-gotten gain, and therefore you cannot get atonement unless you pay it to the rightful owner or his heirs or to the Kohen. And even though the convert said it's a loan, still no good. You have to get it out of your hands. All right, Matkif la Rav Sheshat. Oh, that's the first answer. Rav Sheshat is going to challenge it. וכל שכן לאחרים. ולרבי עקיבא לשמין לאחרים דלה מעשה מכיל, וכל שכן לנפשה דלה מעשה מכיל. If what you're saying is true, then the Mishnayot that they teach should be the opposite cases, as follows. Our Mishnah, the Mishnah over there, back a few dapim ago, about the guy who lives in Madai. You're telling me that that's the opinion of Rabbi Yosef. But that's a case where others are forgiving, right? Someone else is forgiving the robber. But according to the Rabbi Yosef, who says that even a person can even forgive himself, so the Rabbi Yosef should have said his chidush regarding a case of a son with the father, all right? And that would then, it should have said that. Why would Rabbi Yosef HaGalili teach us a case of someone else forgiving it? he should teach us a case of he forgiving himself. So that doesn't make sense. And the other side also, if Rabbi Akiva thinks that no one can ever forgive alone, then he shouldn't teach a case of a son forgiving himself, where that's that's easier to understand why he doesn't forgive. Rabbi Akiva should have been the one to say that in the case of a guy who lives in Madai, the victim himself, he cannot forgive alone. And then we would know for sure if even a victim cannot forgive alone, cannot forgive the payment, certainly a person cannot forgive his own payment. And so each one is giving the smaller chidush, so really they should have swapped cases. And then it would have made more sense. So therefore, your distinction between splitting the difference of these two mishnayot, that one's Rabbi Akiva and one's Rabbi Yosef, that doesn't work. Ela amar Rav Sheshet. Both Mishnayot are Rabbi Yosef Galili. The earlier one that says the victim can forgive, obviously because he thinks that people can forgive. And so when he says people can forgive, that's only others, and that's why that Mishnah beforehand is Davka. It's particularly the guy in Madai who's alive, he's the victim, he can forgive. But even Rabbi Yosef Galili would say that a person cannot forgive himself, and that's why he's also the author of our Mishnah, where the father died and then the son can't forgive himself, and that's why the money has to go to his brother. So that's good, easily to reconcile these two Mishnayot. Ela amay zacha hala bema shebeyado bishum dezekafan ala b'milveh. So in the case of the Braita, of the convert, so how come the robber can keep it in that case? After all, he's forgiving himself, and we just said according to Yosef Galili, you cannot forgive yourself, and the answer is only because the convert turned it into a loan. Now that he turned him into a loan, that's why he can keep it because it's a regular loan. But if he had not done so, this is different from the inference, that the way we interpreted Yosef Galili according to the previous answer. All right, and according to this answer, it's only because it was a loan. Otherwise, it would be forgiving himself, and Yosef Galili would not permit it. That's the second answer. Rava Amar, ha veha Rabbi Akiva, ki amar Rabbi Akiva de lo maseh machil nafsheh, aval lacherim maseh machil. Rabbi Akiva says both Mishnayot are Rabbi Akiva. And when Rabbi Akiva says you cannot forgive alone, that's what he says regarding the convert, that's only that he can't forgive his own loan, as he's doing here when the convert died, and so he can't do it. He can't forgive himself. But others, someone else can forgive. And that also explains both Mishnayot. The Mishnah beforehand about the guy in Madai, that's talking about someone else. The victim can, if he's alive, he can forgive the robber. Our Mishnah here is the son forgiving himself. He cannot do that. That's why he has to go to the brothers. And the convert is also just fine because he cannot forgive himself. And so everything is consistent according to Rabbi Akiva. Now we ask, if you say that all of these opinions are Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Akiva thinks that you can forgive someone else, but you can't forgive yourself. That would mean that according to Rabbi Yosef HaGalili, one can even forgive oneself, right? Because Rabbi Yosef HaGalili has to be more lenient than the Rabbi Akiva. So even one can even forgive oneself. Ela gezel lager dekama d'chamanan netina lakohanim hechi mashkachad la. When would you ever have a case of gezel hager, someone who stole from a ger, and the way the Torah says, the pasuk that we read, that says you have to give it to the kohanim? You can always just forgive yourself. In other words, according to Rabbi Yosef Galili, you can always forgive yourself, and therefore, even if it was not a loan, and he just stole from the ger, and then the ger died, so he can keep it. So when would you ever have to give it to a kohen? We're talking in the pasuk would be talking about a case where a person stole from a convert, swore falsely that he didn't steal, then the convert dies, and only after the convert dies, he admitted to it. So at the time that he admitted, since the convert is not even alive, so then he does not have to pay the convert such that then when the convert dies, he can keep the money. No, that doesn't apply. When at the time that he admits, since he's not alive, then the thing that he stole will be acquired by God, right? And God says, give it to the Kohanim. And so that makes a distinction in terms of the order. If he admits while the convert's alive, so then the monetary obligation goes to the convert dies, he has the money anyway, he can just keep the money according to B'Yaseh Galili. But if the convert dies first and only then he admits, so then he owes that money to Hashem, and then the Torah says, give it to the Kohen. Ba'ayad Avina, Gezel Hagioret Mahu, Ish Amar Chamana Velo Isha, O Dilma Orche Dikrahu. When the Torah says that if someone steals from a convert and lies, and then the convert dies, so then he returns it to the Kohen. So I know that's talking about if the convert was a male. But what if it was a female? So does the same law apply? On the one hand, you could say the Torah says Ish, so we can infer from there, and not Isha. So maybe it would not apply to someone who steals from a female convert, and the payment does not go to the Kohen. Or do we say, there's just the way of the Pasuk. It says Ish, but it means inclusive. It includes everybody. Amar le Rav Aharon le Ravina Tashema detanya ish en li ela ish isha minayin kishomer hamushav harekan shenayim. So Rav Aharon answers Ravina is I have a braita that answers it. Even though the Torah says ish, I only know if the convert is a man, then you have to give it to the Kohen. How about if the convert who was stolen from is a woman? When the Torah when the pasuk says hamushav, that which is returned. Let's see the pasuk inside here. Vim en la'ish go'el lashib ha'asham elav. Here's where it says man, right? If the convert is a man and he has no other inheritors, elav ha'asham hamushav ladonai lakohen. Then the item that is returned, you give to the kohen. You see the double language of lehashiv ha'asham and ha'asham hamushav. So because of that double language, we can learn that it applies also to a woman. If she is the robbery victim and she is a convert, then also, and she dies, it also goes to the Kohen. If so, why say ish if you're going to have to just add another word to add isha? Ish ata sarich lachzor acharav im yesh lo goalim im lav. Katan I ata sarich lachzor acharav biyadua she'en lo goalim. The word ish is not coming to exclude a female, but rather coming to exclude a child. Only if it's an adult, man or woman, then you have to first check to see maybe he has children who are his heirs. Or maybe not. If not, then you give it to a Kohen. But if it's a convert child, where there's no way that he has any children himself, and his parents are not his heirs, and his brothers and sisters are not his heirs because he's a convert, so you do not have to check to see if who else is there, because for sure he has no heirs. That's what the word ish is coming to teach. Tenor banan, ladonai la kohen, keno Hashem untano la kohen shebeoto mishmar. So now what do you do with it? If you stole from the convert, he died, so it says it goes to Hashem, to the Kohen, which means Hashem gets it, right? It goes to to Kodesh, to Shamayim, and which Kohen will get it? The Kohen that is serving in the Mishmar. All Kohanim are split up into 24 groups. Each Mishmar serves for 1 week, and then they rotate. So each one will be for about 2 weeks every year. Whoever happens to be on guard at that time of the payment, that those Kohanim get it. Is that true? Do you say, does it have to go to that Mishmar? Maybe the thief says, listen, I have a friend who is a Kohen. I want to give it to my friend Kohen, who's not in the current Mishmar. Well, look at the rest of the Pasuk. It says, you give the stolen item to the Kohen, in addition to the ram of Kippurim that will atone for him. So who gets that ram? Well, it's the Kohen who's serving in that mishmar. So just like the Kohen who's serving that mishmar gets the korban, so too he gets the property. Tenor Banan, Haresh Shehaya Gozel Kohen. Interesting case. The robber is himself a Kohen. Perhaps the Kohen who stole, he stole from a convert, and the convert died. So the Kohen can think to himself, since this is going to be given to Kohanim, and now look, it's already in the possession of it's already in my possession, and I'm a Kohen, so I should be able to keep it. And this Kohen not only is he a Kohen? He's also a great logician, and he can make a kal vachomer. V'dinhu im b'shel acherim hu zocheh b'shel asmo lo kol sheken. If a Kohen can get stolen items from other people, a Yisrael who steals from a convert and the convert dies, the Kohen gets it. All the more so, if a Kohen himself stole, he should be able to keep it, and that therefore I should be able to keep it. And that's one version of the kal vachomer. Rabbi Natan omer b'lashon acher. Rabbi Natan is going to bolster up this kal vachomer of the Kohen. It's a wrong kal vachomer, but we're going to make the best case possible first. Uma davar she'en lo chelek bo ad she'yikanes b'shuto, ki she'yikanes b'shuto eno yachol lotzio miyado. If a Kohen, where for something that he has no share in it until he gets it, but once he gets it, no one else can take it from him. That's referring to terumah, right? Someone has terumah, the farmer owns the terumah until he decides which Kohen to give it to. So Kohen has no share in it until it comes into his possession, if the farmer gives it to him. But once it gets into his possession, no other Kohen can take it from him. So that's the origin, that's the source of a kal vachomer. Davar sheyesh lo chelek bo ad shelo yikanes b'shuto, misher nichnas b'shuto eno din de'en acher yachol lotzio miyado. Then all the more so, an item stolen from a ger and the ger died, which is something that he has. If he's part of that mishmar, he has a portion in it even before he takes possession of it. Just automatically, in given the situation, whoever is going to be the mishmar is going to be the owner, even before it's physically given to him. So all the more so, if the Kohen is the thief and already has it in his possession, then he shouldn't have to give it up to give it to whoever is in the mishmar. If he is, even if he's not in the mishmar himself, since he already has possession of it, he should be able to keep it. Okay, that sounds like a logical kal vachomer, but then the Baraita rejects it. Lo, im amarta bedavar she'en lo chelek bo, keshem she'en lo chelek bo, kach en acherim chelek bo. No, you can't compare them because it's precisely terumah, where that is something that the Kohen has no automatic right to. So just like he has no automatic right to, that's why no other Kohen can take it from him, right? The farmer can decide, it belongs to the farmer until such time as the farmer says, I'm going to give it to Kohen A. So Kohen A had no right to it until it was given to him, and therefore this Kohen B also has no right to it, and had no right to it, and therefore cannot take it from Kohen A. That makes sense regarding terumah. You can't compare that to gezel. Tomar begezel shekeshem sheyesh lo chelek bo, kach yesh lacherim chelek bo. Regarding gezel, just like this Kohen who is a thief, let's say he's part of that mishmar of that very week when it will be paid back. So just like he, as a Kohen in that mishmar, has an automatic right to it, even before it's given over to him in his possession, he already has a right to it. So too, all the other Kohanim in that mishmar have an automatic right to it, and therefore will be able to take it from him. Rather, this Kohen who stole from a convert who died, although this money is in his hands and the convert died, so you'd say, well, maybe he can keep it. No, just like he has a right to it automatically, so do all of the other Kohanim of that mishmar have a right to it, and they can take it from him. He cannot keep it. That's the answer to the kal vachomer. We ask, V'haketi v'ish et kodashav lo yihiyu. That's continuation of that chapter, right? If a kohen brings his own sacrifices, he keeps them. In other words, whenever a kohen has to owes some korban, it's his prerogative to say, I want to offer it myself, and then whatever parts of it that the kohen keeps, he will be able to keep it. Shediten lakohen lo yihiyeh. So therefore, just like he can keep his own korban, he should be able to keep his own stolen property. Doesn't that make sense? And we answer, we're talking about a kohen who is tameh. So this beraita is talking about such a case. Since the kohen is tameh, he cannot bring the korban and keep the parts of the korban. That's why in this case, he also cannot keep the stolen items. If he was tahor, then maybe indeed, yes, he could keep his korban and he could keep the stolen item. But here, it's a kohen tameh who does not. But we reject this. If it's kohen tameh, would you say something that he has a part of? Right? We said in the rejection of the beraita, says in the rejection of the Kal Vachomer, something that he himself has a part of. When the kohen is tameh, not only can he not get the korbanot, he can't get the hides. That all the hides of all the sacrifices go to the kohanim. He can't get it, even though it doesn't matter that he's tameh. He doesn't get tameh kohen doesn't get any of the gifts from the Bet HaMikdash. So if he's a kohen, we wouldn't say he has a part in it. So the beraita cannot be assuming that he is a tameh. Rather, it's talking about a tahor kohen. And in fact, as a tahor kohen, he can bring his own korban and keep everything and keep his own korban. Nevertheless, the stolen item itself he cannot keep. Why? It's a gezerah shava from the word la kohen, from the law of a seder achuzah. This is the law that will be explained in this beraita. Detanya. Achuzato ma tamud omar. Minayin l'seder hayosar l'kohanim bayovel. Ugala echad min hakohanim. Minayin shelo yomar ho'il v'yosar l'kohanim bayovel. Varehi tachat yadi teheh sheli. Okay, so it's a bit complicated. The law of a seder achuzah. If I have an inherited land, it was passed down but from my father, from my grandfather, right? And if I would sell it, it would come back to me in the yovel. Good. That's a seder achuzah. So if I make it hekdesh in the middle of the yovel, I have a right to redeem it, right? I pay a fixed amount that the Torah says, that's prorated according to the number of years till the yovel, and then I can get it back. Good. But if the owner does not redeem it and someone else pays for it, then it goes to that person until the yovel. At the yovel, it does not go back to the ancestral owner. The ancestral owner loses it forever, and instead the Bet HaMikdash divvies it up to the kohanim that are in that mishmad of whenever the yovel year starts. Whoever is our kohanim in that mishmad, they will get that land. All right, that's the law. Now, this beraita is asking, when it says ahuzato regarding this this field that is donated, we learn from it. How do we know that a field that will be divvied up by the kohanim in the yovel, but before that, a kohen is the one that paid for it and redeemed it? So we have the original owner consecrated it. The original owner did not redeem it. A kohen instead paid money to redeem it. So now, if it was a Yisrael, then it would go back to the Bet HaMikdash and the kohanim would divide it up. But now, since it's a kohen who owns it, maybe you would think that kohen could say, since it's going to be divided up to the kohanim in the yovel, and I'm a kohen, so I should be able to just keep the whole thing. V'din hu b'shel acherim ani zoche b'shel asmi lo kol sheken. After all, the kohen can make a Kal Vachomer. If it was redeemed by someone else, a Yisrael, I would get it, right? Because I'm a kohen. So now that I'm the owner, all the more so, I should keep it for myself, and I shouldn't have to share it with any other kohanim in the mishmar. Talmud lomar kistei acherim lakohen tiyeh achuzato achuzah shelo ve'en zo shelo hakesad yoseh mitachat yado u'mitchaleket l'chol echav hakohanim. That's why the pasuk says that it will be like a field that is consecrated, and it goes to the kohen kohen, lakohen tiachuzato. In the simple reading, stechuzato, it means the owner's ancestral field. But here we're saying that it refers to the kohen's ancestral field. If the kohen has an ancestral field that he got from his ancestors, that he can keep for himself and doesn't have to share. But this field that the Kohen simply redeemed. It was the owner that consecrated it, and the owner never redeemed it. And this Kohen happened to redeem it. He cannot keep that one in the Yovel. Rather, he has to give it up, and it will be redivided among all the Kohanim of that Mishmar. So that's the law that we learn from Seder Achuzah. And now we make a Gezerah Shavah, la Kohen, to teach us that's the same law regarding a Kohen who steals from a convert who dies. That Kohen also cannot keep the item, even though it was a convert, and he himself as a Kohen is going to have to be paid to a Kohen. No, he doesn't keep it himself. He has to divide it up with it has to be divided among the Kohanim who are in that Mishmar. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen ve'amen.